Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a very special Rangers review briefing. Is it special? I think I would have liked to have stayed in bed, to be honest, if Rangers had done the business yesterday. But we are here, myself and Jonny, to discuss the debacle at Ibrox yesterday and where Rangers go from here. Another dreadful showing. Rangers losing by 2-0 to Hearts. They're now languishing down in 10th in the table. Really, really dreadful display to add to the previous poor showings under Russell Martin. Jonny joins me. How's it going, Jonny?
Yeah, it feels like we've done rather too many of these emergency podcasts over the last 3 years, Derek. And here we are again in what can only be described as a crisis situation, with another Rangers manager whose career at the club is hanging by a thread, and another performance so abject, so awful, so lacking in any kind of positivity or anything to hang your hat on that there's going to be improvement. It leaves us in a situation where we just have to pick apart the future of this manager, Russell Martin, and try to make sense of what's going on at the club.
Yeah, it's totally dire. Before we get stuck in, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willow's Fencing. If you're looking for a new fence, folks, I know many of you might be commenting in that Rangers could be doing with that, certainly in the back line. But give these guys a call. The Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust, proud partners of the Rangers Review. Over 20 years of experience in the fencing game, and you can get 10% off with the code Rangers Review over on their website, which is willows-fencing.com. Right, got to say, when I was on with Chris on Friday, we gave our predictions for the game on Saturday, and it was more heart ruling ahead. I said I would take a scrappy 1-0 Rangers win. Don't care how ugly it was, as long as they got off the mark, up and running with a victory. But I did expect Hearts to take something from the game, which materialised, and well deserving of that 2-0 win. Ironically, Lauren Shankland with the 2 goals for Hearts, someone you've been banging on about for quite some time, that it made sense for Rangers to go and get, certainly on a freebie in the summer. We'll discuss recruitment on this video as well. But the atmosphere in the stands was, again, toxic towards Russell Martin. He was asked, both sets of fans saying he was getting sacked in the morning. As it stands, he is still the Rangers head coach. He can't remain in head coach for beyond, well, I was going to say beyond today, but it would surprise me if, would it surprise me if he's still in charge for next week? I think Rangers have to make a change with regards to who is in charge of the football team at this point in time. Jonny, this can't continue, can it? I'm just going to bring up the league table just to show you where Rangers currently sit. So as you can see there, a big result for Hearts yesterday. 6 points in front. Celtic have a game against Kilmarnock, don't they, today, where they can 10 points. Celtic on 10 points, Hearts on 13. They can go level with Hearts, but Rangers down there in 10th position. 4 points from the opening 5 games, a -2 goal difference, utterly dreadful. Where do Rangers go from here, Jonny? Because that is totally unacceptable, Rangers down there at this point in time. I get it. I mean, we're 5 games in now, no wins. I think it's the worst start, I think, since 1978. A Rangers manager hasn't won at least one of his opening 5 games. I'm at a loss as to what the future now holds. That surely says that the manager should make way and a change is made at the helm, surely. Or does Russell Martin keep his job? I can't see how he can continue, given what we have witnessed, not only yesterday, but since he came in the door.
Yeah, well, Russell Martin at the moment is making Pedro Caixinha and Paul Le Guen look like Carlo Ancelotti and Pep Guardiola. It's as simple as that. This is a disastrous spell in charge. If it ends, and it should end soon, there's no doubt about that, then he will go down in history as the worst Rangers manager to have taken the office. There's no doubt about that. This is a remarkable state of affairs because Rangers, in my view, were not in a terrible situation when he took over, and he has, unlike the two previous names that I mentioned, has had serious backing by the context of Scottish football, the rest of Scottish football this summer. And remarkably, Rangers look worse than they looked last season. How is that possible? More than one thing has to go wrong for that to take place. But in my view, there are some players that have been brought in that are absolutely not up to this league and the demands in this club. I think the manager's starting to realise how important mentality and character and experience is at a club like Rangers. He was talking about it at the press conference. I think we'll go into that in more detail when he was talking about psychology being an important part of it. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I mean, it's taken you this long to work that out. I mean, that's remarkable stuff. Truly, truly remarkable stuff. I mean, anyone who's been watching Rangers for any longer than about 5 minutes can tell you that you need to bring in a core of experienced players, and any young player who is coming into that dressing room right now is doomed to failure. So this idea of bringing in talented youngsters and kickstarting the player training model is no point, because young players are just going to get eaten up and spat out. I said at the start of this season, when I started to see players like Mikey Moore come in, this is worrying from a Rangers point of view, because you need more than just talent to achieve at Ibrox, to perform at Ibrox. You look at a player like Amad Diallo, who was a nearly £40 million signing for Manchester United. Very, very talented guy. Malik Tillman, who is another who will go for huge money. These guys struggled to cut it at Rangers. Malik Tillman was a guy who, despite some very good moments, he caused dispute amongst the Rangers sport. He was under a bit of pressure. Some people thought he was good, some people didn't. Amad Diallo was an outright failure. That's the level of talent that can come into Rangers and not cut it. So for a young player to come to this club and really do something, to be a young Barry Ferguson, you need to be a level above. And a lot of the recruitment to me just smacks of talented young players that might work out over the next few years, but only when they've got a core of quality and mentality in the dressing room around them to drag them through in the domestic drudgery. And it isn't there. And, you know, I think, Derek, you'll know privately, and on this video, I'm not on as much as I once was, but privately, I've been warning about all this happening since before the season even kicked off, because it was quite obvious to me. I know what you need to have to make a Rangers team work, and I just not seeing enough of the kind of discipline and power and pace and graft that you would need, the kind of experience that you need to give you that.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it goes without saying, Rangers have to move on Russell Martin. It has not worked out. You cannot continue to double down on a mistake. It's clearly an error. There's no coming back from where he is. This can only get worse, or it can only continue to go on and cause pain for everyone involved. Whether that's protracted pain or a quick cut, that's up to the board. In terms of what we're hearing, Derek, you know, we're looking at the moment, and I don't sense that there's an appetite for a change right now. Now, that might be completely wrong, but I think Russell Martin, if you're asking me my personal opinion, I think Russell Martin will get more time. I don't think he should, but I'm not seeing or hearing any of the jungle drums that there's change afoot, and I don't know why that is. I know that they want to make sure they're changing the culture of the club, and they don't want to be going down the route that the previous board did, which was the minute they were under pressure, they sacked a manager. But I just, my opinion is, I don't think we're quite there yet, and I don't think that Russell Martin is going to be sacked today or tomorrow, as wrong as I feel that is.
Well, if they don't sack him, we need to hear from Parag Marathi. He did say when he was up with Andrew Kavanagh, the fans won't hear from him if the team are doing well. Well, the team are doing horribly, things are going horribly wrong at the moment. So it's time that we hear from hierarchy if they're sticking by Russell Martin. If they do, for me, it shows that they aren't serious about challenging for the title. And it's important, I think, to communicate that with the supporters who are turning up to Ibrox in away matches with an expectation that they're going to challenge for honours this season.
Derek, but here's the reality of it. The title, forget the title.
No, I know.
It's second now. Hearts are 9 points clear after 5 games. I mean...
Johnny, we're fighting for top 6, I would say. I said after the Bruges game, if Rangers stick with Russell Martin, it's mid-table mediocrity. I stick by that because what we're seeing nothing here. No. When does it magically improve?
No, look, the style of football is just not suited and to this league. And I think Russell Martin himself has kind of already come out and said that, like the things that we're asking them to do, it requires a certain environment that's just not here. So I think we're just going to have to simplify it further. I mean, we're 5 games in and he's effectively abandoned the principles that were supposed to be extremely fixed and the reason that they brought him to the club in the first place. He's been thoroughly outsmarted by a succession of Premiership managers. I mean, the irony in all this is that the only one he's kind of got the better of tactically was Brendan Rodgers. Because you look at that game and you say, well, Celtic have better players than Rangers right now. You would expect Celtic to probably come to Ibrox and win based on the performances that have been taking place the season so far, and that didn't happen. The game was a kind of stalemate. But then we kind of set up to play in Rangers' half. They looked to get the ball forward as quickly as possible. They weren't messing about on the ball. They weren't passing it around the back like Rangers were. You know, Rangers having this horseshoe thing that I thought we'd got rid of with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, but it's back with a vengeance under Russell Martin, isn't it? This sort of Giga to Suter, Suter to Magoma, Magoma back to Suter, Suter to Giga, Giga back to Suter. You know, I mean, it's rotten to watch. There's no excitement in watching it, and you know, it's a situation where Hearts are looking at that going, right, we'll just play up there. We'll shell it forward, try and win second balls. We've got Cammy Devlin in there, who I thought, by the way, is just a typical Walter Smith signing, Cammy Devlin. Like, it's just a horrible wee naff player who's going to get, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, who will get in about you, who'll disrupt play, who'll put the foot in. You know, a typically just solid Scottish football kind of guy who knows how to play these games. He was winning all the second balls in the midfield, dominating in there, but the ball was going above his head. It was landing on the strikers, and they were playing out from there. And if you see the pass map, you see that, you know, the players where there was most passing for Rangers was between the back four, and the players where there was most passing for Hearts was amongst their forward players. Yeah. So you really, really got a sense of what McInnes was trying to do by looking at that. And I thought he played it perfectly. There was moments that Rangers came back into the game towards the sort of middle of the second half. I thought they had a 10-minute spell where they looked like they were going to score. That kind of reached its crescendo with the mistake by the goalkeeper. I think most of us would agree that that's probably a goal. It probably should have stood. I think it was marginal, and I can see why it was disallowed. But you know, I think the keeper's getting too much protection there. And if I'm the ref, I'm going, not enough in that to chalk that off. But from that point on, I didn't see much more from Rangers. I think Martin at that point changed it and went to a 2 up front, which personally I thought, right, okay, this is going to be interesting now, because I think Rangers have got a squad suited to playing 3 at the back. But actually, it disrupted them, and they lost momentum. Hearts go up and get the penalty. You know, again, it's one of these 50-50 decisions. I'd probably say at pace it is a penalty. And then, you know, Shankland misses, but takes care of the rebound because he's sharp. And this is why Shankland should have been picked up. The biggest no-brainer transfer in the history of Scottish football. And for some reason, they decided against it. I mean, as an outsider looking in, you just can't make it up. But
to me, fingers need pointed at Kevin Thelwell on that front, and we'll get to him at some point. But the recruitment certainly leaves a lot to be desired, and some of the players that Rangers never brought in, and some who were for big money. Just on the horseshoe, Ryan says this is the horseshoe on steroids. We certainly thought we'd got rid of it, but not the case. Let's play the clip then from Russell Martin from the press conference last night. It looked like a beaten man. It's come to the point now where I was watching it last night thinking the club need to put this guy out of his misery and relieve him.
It was almost savage, wasn't it? It was savage watching it. Everyone should watch the presser because it's fascinating. But you almost felt sorry for him in that scenario because he just was a man with no answers.
Yeah, Mark saying don't play it. We're not playing the whole thing, guys, but this is what he had to say about the chance it and whether he'll resign. Here he is.
Many of them wanted me here in the first place, so...
Will you resign?
No.
But Russell, what are you seeing that makes you think you can turn it around? Because that first 45, for example, today was abject. The side's getting worse, not getting any better.
Yeah, we have a lot of new guys in there.
So
we have, we have a lot of players trying to feel their way in an environment that's really difficult to feel their way into their Rangers career. Really, really difficult. So we just have to make sure they're all right as human beings first and improve their performance. We have we're on the side of three poor decisions, in my opinion. It's a handball for their first goal. Our goal is a goal. There's not a foul on the goalkeeper, and then Dio says he makes no contact. It's why it took so long. And we should have scored. We should have scored 2 or 3. And it was 1-0. We should have. And but there's anxiety at the moment. And the players are not the same team we see in training on Thursday and Friday when they go out and play in this environment right now. And that's not a criticism of anyone. So to your emotion and your anger, I get it, I understand it. But we have to just keep working.
He's talking about the anxiety there, Johnny. Reading between the lines, he's having a go at the fans, isn't he? But wearing the shirt. Listen,
he uses the word environment twice, Derek. There in a short clip.
I know what he's getting at.
And listen, wow, that's new, isn't it? That Rangers is a tough environment for players to thrive in.
Short
that
quarter.
You need hardened, experienced pros to cope with it. I mean, who'd have thought it? Who'd have thunk it? I mean,
and I'm not buying that as well. They're anxious because they're confused and they've been asked to do something that's alien to them. They're being asked to do. In fact, I don't actually believe they know what they're being asked to do, to be honest. And it's a mess on the park. So I think all blame for the anxiety and for the players playing as they are lies at Russell Martin's door. Hence why Rangers, for me, need to act like a big football club here and make a change and get someone in that can organise a football team.
Derek, look, I never try and suggest or pretend that I'm some sort of tactical expert. I watched a lot of football over the years, but of course a professional like Russell Martin and professionals in general, they'll be able to point things out that I or you just don't see. Maybe Josh is different, having done his coaching badges and things like that. But one thing I would say is watching that Rangers team, I can't see it. I don't know. I don't get what he's trying to do. It seems to change, that the philosophy has changed over the last few games. You know, he went from like, I'm going to play a certain way. This is the way we're always going to play, and we're just going to have plan A, and we're going to get better at plan A. But then against Celtic, much harder to break down, much more solid, kind of players all working for each other. You thought there's a performance where you've gone back to basics a bit. That's good to see. But there was a continuation of that against Hearts, and the just weren't creating to the level I think you need to create as Rangers at home. And listen, Hearts are a good side. There's no doubt about it. I think they'll do really well this season. And I'm concerned from a Rangers point of view that there's already a big distance there for that third place, and that the financial implications of that for Rangers are disastrous if they were to come third. It's a huge financial hole that the owners would have to fill. So, listen, getting back to the key thing here, and I think it's so important, is it's on Russell Martin. Russell Martin has got the final say on the players that come in. He spent 8 million on Chermiti, going up to potentially 10 or more million, and he could have signed the guy that scored 2 for nothing. So it's not even about money per se. I mean, he's had the backing. There's no doubt about it. The amount of money that he's had to spend is significant. It's on him that he's not gone out there and bought players that have the experience and the know-how and the mentality to cope in the Scottish game. He knew all this. He's played here before and failed, so he knows what it's like, what this beer pit can be like. And that's why you need to
I don't think he does
ensure
that.
that your squad.
Yeah, I don't think. I know he came up here on loan, but I mean, Rangers were a basket case then, weren't they? And probably the same now as it stands. But I don't think he totally gets what this is, and I don't think Kevin Thelwell actually gets what this is either. Given the recruitment and the players that have been brought in, and the fact that Russell Martin's got this job, I don't think he understands what is required at Rangers to get them back on top of the table here.
I think it's hard to pinpoint blame. I would always go with the manager when it comes to recruitment, and the director of football is always going to be involved in any criticism of recruitment. But I can see personally, like I look at Asgard, right? And I thought yesterday Asgard did a lot of good things, and I can see a player there. But I also think, well, how are you going to perform in such a basket case of a team? How are you going to show your best qualities? So I think it's a wee bit early to be going in on Thelwell, because I look at the players he's brought in, and I think it's impossible to say what they're capable of based on the small sample size that we've got, because of the confusion that is reigning in that team.
If he's backing Martin, though, and he publicly came out, of course, that Rangers TV interview last week, and he's come out and backed him. I'll read you one of the quotes, what he had to say. What's it like working with him day to day? He says, I've been very lucky over the course of my career to work with some very good managers, some very good head coaches. Have to say he's one of the best. He's a very, very good coach, very good in the grass, very well organised. He's extremely high energy. He gives time to players, wants to work with players and wants to develop players, wants to be very clear about trying to make players better and develop them. He cares about the group, he cares about the results, cares about the performances, and also cares about the staff here. I found him very, very collaborative, and I appreciate I'm saying all these things, and they haven't quite translated yet from what I'm seeing on the day-to-day basis. All of that hard work, all of that energy that we need to see on the pitch, but I'm certain that will happen. And I appreciate it's very easy for me to sit here and ask for patience. I won't do that because I know we work at an incredible football club that desires and needs to have a winning team very, very quickly. But there also needs to be a little bit of perspective here, because we have changed so much. And hopefully in due course, again, the fans and everybody will see all the good work that's been going on out on the pitch through the performances. He was also pressed, of course, in that TV interview, whether he's the right man to lead the group. And he says, he basically said that he hasn't changed from the first moment we're both appointed, effectively, which is we want an aggressive team. We want a team that is a higher level of intensity. We want the fan base to be proud of a team that holds and has similar values: honesty, hard work, respect, humility out on the pitch. I think we've seen glimpses of that. I don't think we've quite put together a body of work that says we've seen that consistently. But I don't necessarily think that's come down to one point, and that we've already talked about the consequence of change. But I'm very confident that will come in due course based on what I see on a day-to-day basis, which is a coach and a group of coaches that are working very hard in delivering very strong messages, very strong coaching sessions, very strong support for players to hopefully get everybody to understand exactly what is required on the pitch and then go out and do it. I understand we've got to do it. Hopefully when we get back to the Hearts game and the games going forward, we'll see a bit more of what we saw in the Old Firm. So
I think the key thing is Russell Martin's comments about the environment, and I think he as the interview goes on, he talks about it a little more, about the anxiety from the environment and trying to do something that they can't really do because of the environment. And listen, there's only so much like a director of football can do when they appoint a manager. Thelwell is going to back the manager at this stage, or certainly prior to this game, because they've made an investment. It's going to be a costly one to reverse. But a director of football role, Derek, I'm always loath, and I was like this and people didn't like it either when I was like this about Ross Wilson. It's a long-term role. You can't go chopping and changing director of footballs, and you can't be looking to change a director of football on the basis of one failed appointment. The key, I think, measure of a director of football is when they make a mistake, how quickly they rectify it, how effectively they rectify it. And to me, that's where the eyes are on Thelwell. Will you, move at the right time before this has gone too far? I've never seen a manager that is so in the wrong movie, Derek, than Russell Martin.
He's out of his depth. Yeah,
he's out of his depth. He's got this job based on the desire for the new ownership group to implement a different, more modern style of play, which is totally laudable and totally understandable. And many people, I think, prior to the appointment of Martin would have said, yeah, that's the right move to make, including people that are on this panel that we talk to every day on here. But ultimately, there's a balance, isn't there, between playing that kind of football and the reality, the practical reality of Rangers' budget and what Scottish football is like. And to me, there has to be a level of realism about what you can implement. And I don't think, based on the players that have been brought in, the money that's been spent, the talent of the manager, that those criteria have all been met, because that's why we're seeing a Rangers team slide to 10th in the league, which, I mean, after 5 games, is totally and utterly bonkers, Derek. This is, they're not playing Real Madrid week in, week out. You know, this is not a complicated league to perform in. There's certain things you need to do, and you know, Rangers manager after Rangers manager of recent years has kind of failed to grasp that. And we're now in a situation where, what rebuild are we in a row now in? I don't know. What major summer rebuild in a row? I mean, probably like 3rd or something like that. And I think there's no doubt that part of the problem with all that has been there's been a too reactive about certain players, too reactive about certain managers. I think we'd all look back now and say Rangers were too quick to pull the bullet, to fire a bullet when it came to Giovanni van Bronckhorst. I think most people would say should have given him the backing to go out and build his own team, because, let's be honest, it was still Steven Gerrard's team. Some of those guys had come to the end, and it was time to move them on then. But that didn't happen. You bring back Beale, you only sort of elongate that kind of dressing room core, and new players come in, they're not good signings, and before you know it, you're in a sort of cycle and you're panicking and everything's going to hell in the handcart, and we are where we are now. But listen, summer should have been a reset, Derek, and it should have been a reset with core principles. And the core principles have been, in my view, a little bit lacking, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing.
I thought when the takeover occurred that we'd now start to see Rangers acting like a big football club again, and that good feeling, you've got to say, was diminished somewhat when the appointment of Russell Martin was made. He was starting behind the 8 ball. He had to win football matches pronto, and he's failed to do so. It's been a real disastrous appointment. Lots of you getting in touch. There's a comment here from David. He's very kindly donated to the channel. Week on week, it's never Martin's fault. Always something or someone else's. Now it's the fans apparently scaring the players. Yeah, absolutely bang on. There's no real culpability from his side of things as well. We've seen that interview when he came out scathingly at Fir Park, of course, and it was a real bold move at the end of that game to come out and chastise a culture in that dressing room, and it looks like that has backfired, certainly. I don't think that was the wisest thing to do on reflection. This is a point as well. Another brilliant donation. Bluebells are Blue, big fan of the channel, says that the new majority stakeholders seem to have made 2 major errors. Thelwell, he is ultimately the man who brought Martin in, and Martin, looking at Leeds, also not going well. Do we have a bigger problem than we think? I think that squad, we've touched on recruitment there. Some of the players in the signings have been suspect. No idea why Rangers have splashed out £3.5 million up to for Emmanuel Fernandez when he can't get in the squad, not getting a game. Just beggars belief what the thinking is around that one. You touched on Asgard. I think, decent player, but a lot of money's been spent on him. Again, League One, lower-end Championship player. There are others. The 4 loans in defence. Max Aarons has been poor, let's be honest. Chermiti, a lot of money has been spent on this lad. Could that have been spent elsewhere on positions it needs improving in? I think Miofsky will be a good addition, I've got to say. Magoma, the left-back situation, it just defies belief why Rangers never brought in a more experienced professional to help with the loads there, as opposed to just trusting a 19-year-old to play pretty much every game. You're expecting him to play, which is a tough, tall task, really, to ask him to do that. So, questions have to be asked around recruitment, the levels and the shopping, the market Rangers are shopping. I know Kevin Thelwell, that interview, he said the reason they've predominantly targeted the English market is because it's a market he and Dan Purdy know. But I don't think there's much value in there. You've said it before, Johnny. Are these Championship League One level players good enough to get Rangers onto a platform where they're challenging for titles? I don't necessarily think they are, to be honest. And recruitment is a big part of that. That being said, though, I think a manager comes in there with a sense of organising it. Just I get half a clue about how to set up a team and go and win matches. It doesn't matter about how you win. There's a point that comes in here from Chris. He says we want to win and win in a particular way, and that's what Kevin Thelwell said. He said, "Is it okay? When does the first part begin?" I don't think Rangers care about this particular way. They just want to win football matches.
It's a misunderstanding in the culture of the club. I've talked about this before when I listed the reasons why John Greig is the greatest ever Rangers player, and the kind of ongoing DNA that's been built up over 150 years plus of the history. And Rangers fans don't care about a style of play, and they never really have. Like, listen, everyone who supports a football club wants something to moan about. But what Rangers want to see is Rangers fans want to see, I think, like over my time watching the club and the fans that I speak to, they want to see power, they want to see aggression, they want to see a team that goes forward, they want to see a team that gets balls in the box and creates excitement. But more than all that, they want to see teams that play for the jersey, that understand what it means to be a Rangers player, that upholds the standards that have been developed over the history of a club. People are very, very proud of that and what it means to the community, what the club means to the city and the country. And these things are about, they're intangible. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you behave. You look back at someone like Walter Smith. We talked about John Greig, who's another, but someone like Walter Smith, who is sort of the very definition of football dignity, the way he carried himself, the way he talked about the game. And listen, I'm not expecting Russell Martin to be the reincarnation of Walter Smith. Of course not. But I think there's a real sense of a lack of identity with Rangers right now. There's a lack of the core identity. Who are the guys in the dressing room that represent the fans? Who are the supporters that are explaining to the young players and the new players what this club means and what it's about and what's important and what the standards are? I don't see them. I don't see them because they're not there. Yeah. And that's just the reality of a bunch of guys coming in with a modern sensibility who think it's just any other club. You know, let's be a Brentford. Let's be a Brighton. Rangers should never aim to be a Brentford, a Brighton, or a Southampton. Those clubs, you know, two of those clubs are magnificently run clubs, but they're completely, totally, and utterly different in what they're trying to do and what their aims are. Rangers have to win every single week. The mentality at Rangers has to be sort of elitist. You know, it has to be, we're the top dogs. It's not, we're building something up slowly from the bottom up, brick by brick, and we'll try different things and we'll experiment and we're trying to disrupt. That's not Rangers. Rangers are, you know, at the top. They're a Juventus. You know, like that. Well,
this is what I mean. This is what I mean about we need to hear from the hierarchy. If Martin's been kept on, the club, for me, aren't serious about challenging for silverware, at least this season anyway. So the fans are paying hard-earned money to go and watch Rangers, expecting a team to challenge. So they quite clearly are not this season. So they need to be told this before they start paying for Europa League packages. And, well, fans now, season ticket holders, I know a lot that are just seat subbing and not turning up at Ibrox now. And I can't blame them, because why would you go and watch that when you can go and spend your money elsewhere? So
it's a great point about Europa League packages, Derek. I'd be interested to know what sort of sales are coming in for those, or are projected to be coming in for those once it's we're getting towards that first game, and it's kind of like this is the point where you would expect to be full. I think the fans will absolutely vote with their feet on those, and I think they'll want to make a statement, because why would you want to pay extra to go through to Ibrox and watch the kind of football that we're currently seeing from Rangers? It's not entertaining. It's painful. It's frustrating to watch. This is not a side that's losing goals because they're making the odd daft mistake and it's all going to turn. Absolutely not. That's going to be one that the board themselves are going to have to swallow, are going to have to think about, because unless they make a change, I don't see that changing. And I don't see fans getting engaged because they are not all in on this manager. They are the opposite. They are all out. They are not getting back on board. And the problem is we've reached the stage, and this is why I just feel comfortable in saying Russell Martin is done as the Rangers manager. There's no way back, because even if Russell Martin was to go on a say he went on a 10-game winning run and lost the 11th, then it all comes rushing back.
Yeah.
You know, the fans have decided that they don't like the cut of his jib. They don't believe in him. And when you don't have that, then you are snookered. You are snookered. And to be honest, Derek, I don't know what you felt watching that 4.5-minute video yesterday. I think he carried the ear of a man who knows it. He's not a daft guy.
No. My issue is, I mean, he shouldn't be here in the first place. When his name was mooted in the summertime, I just thought, okay, it's just it is what it is. It's speculation. But when he emerged as a front runner, I remember getting pelters for saying I would rather have kept Barry at the helm as opposed to appointing this guy. I mean, what's around 7 interviews to get the job? I mean, if you're interviewing a guy that much, he isn't the right guy for me, really. And I don't understand what his credentials were that the football department at Rangers thought, yeah, this is the guy to lead the club. If he had, for example, won the championship with Southampton, won an FA Cup, or got them into Europe and decided, right, I've taken the club as far as I can, I'm going to take a sabbatical and take some time out from the game, then perhaps he might get some more leeway because he's actually done something. There's nothing in that CV that determines that he should be the Rangers manager. I mean, there's managers in the Scottish Premiership for me with better CVs than Russell Martin. Give me Stephen Robinson over him any day of the week.
Listen, Stephen Robinson, Derek McInnes, Barry Ferguson.
I think David Martindale for me has got a better CV than Russell Martin with what he's been able to achieve at Livingston. Just someone, I think Rangers need to go down, and I know comments saying go and get Jose, which should be box office. I would love that, but I don't think that's realistic.
Put my name at the top of the list on the.
I mean, it'd be brilliant. It would be fantastic. Nuno, who just left Forest, I think would be fantastic as well. But I think Rangers just need a guy that's well versed in Scottish football and has got a track record of doing well at a club in Scotland.
Nuno is a no for me because his football is low block counter attack. That's how he plays. So that's why he failed at Spurs, which is the biggest club that he's been at. He lasted 2 minutes there. So definitely
he won't be short of Nuno as well. As soon as another Premier League club sack their manager, I know that Graham Potter's under a bit of pressure and other managers elsewhere. I think it will be top of the list for many chairmen down south.
If you want like a mid-level Premier League club, Nuno's your man. Where you're not expected to win every week. I think this is totally different. I also think Nuno, I mean, he's been out in Saudi Arabia. I think he likes his cash, Derek. Don't know if you're going to get that kind of money up here. So don't see that as a starter at all. Jose Mourinho, I would have to say I would put that in the same category, Derek. You know, he was on, I think, 11 or 12 million euros at Fenerbahce. So the level of kind of investment that you'd have to put into getting a Jose Mourinho here, the amount of investment you have to put in terms of the playing side of things, you look at the money they've been spending over recent years to back Jose Mourinho and the kind of players they've been bringing in, the wages that they're paying out. It's just it's in a different stratosphere. I can't also see that happening. People say, yeah, but maybe Jose's got enough money in his pocket and he's thinking about it in a sporting sense. I think we have to get real about, you know, this is a guy that's won 2 Champions Leagues, you know, coming to Scotland and re-establishing Rangers as a force. Is that something that's going to really get his juices going? I don't see it. I'd love to see it, but no, I don't see it. And I also think, let's be honest, Jose is not the man that he once was, and his football is also become, I think, more and more kind of reactive and maybe a little bit outdated. So, listen, if we're talking about who Rangers should go and get, I think the obvious one would be Steven Gerrard. I think that's where most people will go. But listen, it's a big world out there. There'll be a lot of candidates, and I don't think they'll have to look too hard or go too far to find one that can perform better than the current manager is performing at the moment. That's for sure.
Yeah. Big thank you to Stephen, who's kindly donated to the channel. He says, Josie or Gerrard for me. But serious question, what manager would actually want to come? Lots of managers would like to come to Rangers.
Be queuing up.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be worried too much about that. I would honestly just go for it. It doesn't have to be a sexy name, just someone a la a Stephen Robinson, just someone that McInnes, a guy in the away dugout yesterday.
Derek, you've not mentioned your pal in Danoon yet.
Listen, you know my feelings on Neil Warnock. Listen, he would come in and organise that team. He would get the players running through brick walls for him. I have no doubt about that. So people may laugh, but
I'm laughing.
Russell Martin would love to be half as good as Neil Warnock in a managing.
Certainly half as successful, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't.
The thing is, Derek, like, you know, I don't think that the manager is going to go anywhere right now. This is a huge game for him now against Hibs in the League Cup.
Well, no, I know it's a huge game. Like we keep talking about the atmosphere at Ibrox. What's that going to be like if Russell Martin's in the dugout on
terrible, terrible, and it's why it's not really. There's not a lot of sense behind this decision to hold on. When you lose the fans, it's over. It's as simple as that. It's always been the case and always will be the case. And you can have a new regime who can come in with new ideas and not want to be reactionary and feel like previous boards have been too quick to pull the trigger. But the fact is you are absolutely in thrall to the fans. And you're always going to be that way. And when it goes this far, when there's so few people actually giving the alternative point of view, which is, oh, Russell Martin needs time. I don't know a single Rangers fan that feels that Russell Martin should be given more time to implement his ideas.
Well, apart from the guys that he speaks to when he walks around Glasgow, wherever that is, I don't know if when he came out at press conference.
As he says, I suspect Glasgow's leafy West End is probably not a good indicator of the kind of
Gallagher, I think, is where he's presiding there. If people are saying he's doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, that, just forget that. I mean, also, you know, that was before the defeat to Hearts, which is a major result going against you, and one that's entirely predictable. You know, I mean, the one name that we've not talked about there is Derek McInnes, and you know that might be one that comes back to haunt Rangers given how Hearts are looking right now. And you know what? Celtic are not in a good place either.
Well, that's what's so irritating, Johnny, because I think this league title is there to be won. And I mean, Tony Bloom's came in at Hearts. He'll be looking at this going, here, we've got a right good chance of at least challenging to the back end of the season here.
Absolutely. I think they do. They've got a big squad. They've got financial backing. You know, they've just gone out and broke their transfer record for a Brazilian who, unfortunately for them, couldn't play at Ibrox yesterday because I think he had a hamstring injury. So fundamentally, Hearts are in a place where I think they'll look to build in January, and Rangers will have to go out and back whoever's in charge and match that ambition. And Celtic are in the same boat. I've got a funny feeling that Celtic will start to get their act together now. Because once again, there's absolutely zero pressure from their biggest rivals. And this is the thing that season after season is just incredible to me. Brendan Rodgers, in his entire time at Celtic, has never come under any sustained pressure apart from that spell under Clement.
Yeah.
That's the only time in his entire tenure. And even then, by the end, Celtic were able to streak away. I don't know what they won the league by in the end there. It was at 7 or 8 points or something like that.
Yeah, Rangers
they pushed away towards the end of that season. That's criminal, really, that over that amount of football seasons that Rangers haven't been able to put in a sustained title challenge that went to the last day. And it's allowed Brendan Rodgers a real level of comfort. Even through difficult times with his own support, difficult times for the club, and Rangers have just never put their foot to the floor or pressurised them, and that is especially this season when things are so bad across the city, that makes it so much easier and takes so much of the pressure off Celtic.
Yeah, they can win the title in second gear, which is absolutely galling. Big thank you to Darren, who's kindly donated to the channel. He says, Ollie Gunnar for me. Of course, he's at Besiktas now, where he's currently in charge of both Václav Černý and Ridvan Yilmaz. Interesting shout there. And you've starred this on Clement. We just mentioned him there, Johnny. John O'Rourke says Clement was a genius with no money compared with Martin. Yeah, he has spent a lot of cash. Well, not Russell Martin personally, but of course Rangers, and bringing in a number of players. I touched on there. I think large amounts of cash have been spent on guys that are unproven and have been playing at a level that certainly you're questioning whether they can translate that to playing for Rangers. Jury is very much out on everyone at this point in time. But yeah, in hindsight, I think Philippe Clement would have Rangers at, well, certainly not 10th, put it that way. I think they would be up there alongside Celtic and Hearts had he been given the finances in the summer. I'm not saying that Rangers should not have dismissed him at the time, but yeah, even Clement, and then you look at his track record, you can understand why Rangers would have went and got him at that point with his CV. There was nothing on that Martin CV for me that determines that you should get the gig, which is alarming, because then you're trusting the football department to go out if they make a decision on Martin, and they very much should make a decision on Martin to go out and get replacement. You would imagine every club in the land, if they take themselves seriously, should be sounding out potential replacements if the current incumbent isn't doing the business. So you would like to think that is being done behind the scenes, Johnny. But at this point on Clement, what do you think Rangers would look like if Clement was in charge of this side?
Yeah, it's so hard to put forward a case for Clement after the 2-0 defeat to Queen's Park.
1-0.
Sorry, the 1-0 defeat. Yeah, it felt like a 5-0 defeat.
It doesn't matter.
We had one shot, so it would be hard for them to get 2 goals. After such a catastrophic loss, it's so hard to put forward a case for the Belgian. But what I would say is, I don't think Rangers would be anywhere near the situation they are right now if they'd had him in charge. He was dealt a really, really tough hand. When you think about the chaos around the stand at Ibrox, the chaos around the fact that you've got your CEO leaving, you've got your chairman leaving, the absolute uncertainty of the takeover in the background, the total lack of money. You remember the last transfer window before the takeover, I think he brought in the lad Fernandez, who barely played. That was the only deal that he got to bring across the line. And then in the summer before that, I think there was similarly, it was really challenging in terms of the amount that they had to spend, but they brought in players that they were able to turn over. If you think about Igaman, if you think about Jeff Day, if you think about Diamandi being still part of the squad and still having a value, those were moves that Clement made and I think was correct to make, and put almost the club before himself, because he went and tried to get young players that he felt he could develop rather than going for the tried and tested. So I think history will be kinder than it probably is at the moment on Philippe Clement. But I think it's probably one of those situations and scenarios, Derek, where you look back now and you say, wow, if you're saying that about Clement and you're looking back misty-eyed and thinking, you know, he would have been a better choice than the one that we've taken, it's probably symptomatic of what a bad choice has actually been made as his successor. The one thing you can't say about Philippe Clement is that he didn't have a good CV, and I think most Rangers fans were united looking at a guy that won 2 league championships with different clubs in Belgium, a better league than Scotland, and thought, that makes sense as an acquisition. But it didn't ultimately work out. But I think he was dealt with a really, really bad hand, and that paid for him in the end.
Yeah. Thanks to those correcting me. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is now without a club after Besiktas gave him the bullet after Besiktas lost to Lausanne Sports in the Conference League qualifier. So, he's looking for a new club. We've seen Bayer Leverkusen make a change early on as well. Of course, they dismissed of Erik ten Hag after just a couple of games, wasn't it? So, Rangers for me, it's reached a point of no return. They have to make a decision on this guy. If they're keeping him in charge, I think the fans deserve to hear from the board. Johnny, is that fair?
Yeah, I think there's this sort of strange thing going on whereby the board and Rangers as a club generally are almost wanting us to think about it as a blank slate in the summer. Like it's a blank slate, we're changing everything, change is going to be pain. But then at the same time, there's a sort of sense that that history is that history is actually affecting how people are viewing Russell Martin, because it's just another failure on top of previous failures.
Yeah,
and it's almost like it's part of the longer term narrative that we're going to this this story that has been told, and Martin's failure is just another kind of low light of that. I don't think you can get past the history. The history is an important part of anything, and it is affecting how people are viewing this latest rebuild, how previous rebuilds have gone. And sometimes I think you need to get a hold of someone and get someone in who understands the history and understands the club a little bit better.
Yeah.
Who that would be, Derek, I don't know. But I think this is a club that needs to kind of recover its core values a little bit and remember who it is and what it is. And the one thing I'll say about Barry Ferguson, there's a couple of things that he did that I think were smart and were right. And I like Barry's tenure, I don't think overall was very good, but there was certainly highlights in it. But one of the things that he did was he changed for games. So he said, we're going to play this way in Europe, we're going to play this way in the league. At Rangers, you have to win every game, so you have to adjust. And I do feel that Rangers is no place for an ideologue. Another thing I think Barry was aware of and cognizant of when he's been talking about his tenure, he's mentioned that the kind of players that he was going to go after in the summer, should he have been given the go-ahead, would have been players with experience in the league. I'm led to believe Shanklin would have been one of the players that they would have brought in. Scott McKenna was one I think he's been open about that they looked at. I think Barry's talked about Gogic as being someone they might have looked at, or that he would have taken. And while there'll be some people, and as there always is, who look at those players and go, well, they're not Rangers standard. You need a core of players that can just cope with this league. And I keep saying it, but it's so true. And I think Barry understood that, and Barry would have done that. So I'm not saying Barry's the answer. I don't think he is. As I say, I think there was problems in his tenure. I think they let in 2 goals almost every time they played. But at least he understood those 2 principles, and I don't see any understanding of key principles to do with what Rangers are as a club or what this league is all about from the current manager.
Yeah. The longer he stays in charge, for me, fingers should be pointed at the football department, Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thelwell, Dan Purdy, and then the ownership, because that's tends to happen when you see when the fans want the manager out. The easiest thing to do is to make a change there, bring someone else in, and see if they can get a tune out of this group of players. But the longer he remains in situ, then I think rightly the fans are right to voice their displeasure at the way the club has been run just now. So
it's amazing how though a manager can change everything, Derek. We've seen it so many times.
I know.
If you look at Alex McLeish, Rangers were going nowhere under Advocat. They've had a season and a half to drift. Alex McLeish comes in, and all of a sudden, the players are happy. They're playing good football. They switch the formation, causing Celtic real problems. Win the 2 cups, win the treble. Nobody would have kind of predicted that. People thought it was going to have to be wholesale change. Certainly didn't think Alex McLeish was the man to do it. You look at the state that Celtic were before Postecoglou came in. Rangers had built for 3 years, were so powerful under Gerrard, had really good players. Postecoglou came in in one summer and turned it round.
Yeah.
A change of manager can sometimes just be everything. Can sometimes be the catalyst that turns everything round. And it's kind of anti-modern football to say that, but it's true, because there's more to football than just tactics. There's personality, there's man management, there's your ability as a leader to bring together people and to have people fight for you. And if Rangers are going out and get the right man, the whole thing could just fall into place, and then all this kind of criticism of the larger thing going on at Rangers could kind of just drift away. So I think the crucial thing is, like you, I do agree, they have to make a decision and make one quickly. I suspect this Hibs game could be a crucial game, because I think at that point you look at it and you go, Livingston away next. I mean, the games don't get any easier.
Away. I can't see them winning a game at this moment in time. Even going to Livingston and Falkirk, I just can't see them winning a game here.
Well, Livingston's a terribly difficult tie.
Horrible.
I mean, it's difficult in all the ways that Rangers are weak. You know, it's going to test you in terms of your physicality. It's going to test you in terms of your application. It's going to test you in terms of like speed of moving the ball, because we know that pitch is sticky and slow. Although, to be fair, I think they've changed the pitch, haven't they? So
yeah,
it might be a lot better. But they'll do everything they can to make it sticky and slow.
Yeah, they'll get a result against Rangers.
Ahead of that. And you know, at set pieces, there's going to be major questions asked, because Davy Martindale, he can organise the side and he can set them up to cause damage to other teams. And I don't think it's that difficult to look at Rangers and see where you can cause them problems. And certainly McInnes, who had a game plan, stuck to it well, was able to do that. And Martindale similarly. And listen, by the way, people won't be surprised to hear me say this, Derek, but Hibs are all right as well. You know, Hibs have got a decent side at the moment, and they're not without their threats.
Yeah. That's what I said earlier on. I think Rangers are, at this moment in time, languishing in 10th. Stick with Russell Martin, and I think they'd be lucky to make the top 6. And I'm being serious with that from what I've seen so far. It is really bad.
Derek, like, people might criticise you for that, but based on what you've seen so far,
you can't make any other assumption.
Right, they're 10th. I mean, the facts are the facts. And Rangers have been lucky to get what they've got. I didn't think they deserved to beat Motherwell.
Nah.
You know, against Dundee, you're requiring a last-minute goal. So I don't think people should criticise you for that. I think you're absolutely right.
The other side issue, of course, is the circus regarding Nico Raskin. Sat in the stand, well, at least he was in the stand for this game, watching on. That's a nonsense as well, Johnny, isn't it?
Listen, Nico Raskin is a complex wee guy. You know, he wants to win. He's got the right attitude, I think, for Rangers. He's a guy with an opinion. It's absolutely clear that whatever's going on, him and Martin do not see eye to eye. Yeah. Derek, let's be honest, there was a bit of a feel-good factor coming back to Rangers prior to this game. Celtic are in disarray. Rangers have spent an absolute fortune in the transfer window. And you're saying to yourself, well, you know what? If you're going to beat Hearts, actually, this whole thing can turn around now. It's just the confluence of events that had happened led to you sort of thinking, you know what? You get a result here and this can all change. And I just thought that first presser, you know, it's you just want positivity.
Yep.
Like, we're going into this game to win. That's the message. Like, the boys know it's going to be a fight. We know what's coming. And then it just became a Nico Raskin presser.
Yeah.
And I just felt it was obvious his animosity from the manager towards the player. That's my view of watching it. And because there was so many opportunities to just, like, put a pin in it. So, I mean, to me, the obvious thing to say would be, listen, Nico and I have had our disagreements, but here's the fundamental fact. I'm delighted to have a Belgian international at Rangers for the season ahead. I'm so glad he's here. He's a top player. We just need to get him right with this system, get him right with what I'm asking him to do. Nico's a good guy. He's got the right mentality. He asks questions. He challenges. I'm completely comfortable with that. And we've had a clear the air talks, and you know, I'm really, really pleased with having Nico in the building. And Nico's not quite ready for the game. You look at the performances of Conor Barron against Celtic, and you can't drop him. But this is Rangers, and you've got to keep your standards up. And I'm sure there'll be an opportunity for Nico to come back in. And when the opportunity arises, he's just got to take it. You just need to say that. And if anyone else asks about Nico Raskin, you just say, as I've said, I just refer you back to my answer. Me and Nico, we've had a chat. We've resolved the problems. It's all good. And, you know, you just move from there. It's just basic man management. And instead, you've got a sort of momentum that was gathering around the club, around the players, a more positive outlook. And I just thought, like, everyone's raging again on social media when you looked at it. And that's you just don't need it. You just don't need the noise. What Smith always used to say, at Rangers, you don't need to make noise because noise finds you.
Yeah.
And I just thought that just really, really, and I know the comms guys would have told Russell Martin to kind of like dampen it down and avoid going into the detail on it. And I just couldn't believe that he would go back over it again. He's got to put up with Nico Raskin for the next 6 months until the next transfer window. So why not just dampen it down? It just seemed to me to be the obvious move.
Doesn't do himself any favours. Bluebells Are Blue says, well, thank you for your donation again, sir. He says, Rangers is no place for an ideologue. Comment of the year. Couldn't agree more, Johnny. So there you go. Thank you to you all for tuning in to this Sunday briefing, folks. And big thank you to Johnny as well. Now, as we touched on, it doesn't look like Rangers are going to make a move on Russell Martin today or indeed tomorrow. However, if that changes, be sure to subscribe to the channel, to the website.
This is our opinion, guys. You know, we're not coming on here and saying we're reporting this. You know, we're given what we think is a situation based on what we're hearing. But these things can change, and we'll have to wait and see how the next few days pan out. But I suppose one thing we're both saying and what we're both united on is that we believe that the right move would be for Kevin Thelwell to go in there today to get onto a Teams call with the board and give them the verdict that this is not going to recover. So you might as well move now and act before it's totally irretrievable. The season, that is, not Russell Martin.
I know. Decision for me should have been made last night, but the longer it goes on, the more frustrated fans are going to become. There's no two ways about that. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, folks. Hit that notification bell. If we go live with any breaking news pods or anything like that, you'll get the notification to your phone, to your tablet, or wherever you consume your Rangers review news. Right. Go and enjoy your Sunday, whatever you are up to. You up to much later today, Johnny?
Just the usual stuff, mate. Just family stuff. Nothing too exciting. I'm just going to be kind of going to soft play and all the usual stuff that you do when you've got a young child running about your feet. Nothing too exciting. I don't think I'll be watching any football. I'm footballed out, that's for sure.
Yes. Well, it's Manchester Derby on later on. I might catch some of that, but
Watch a team even more in kind of flux and the Rangers.
They've got their own issues, Man United, City as well, incidentally. But I might watch that, I might not, who knows. But enjoy whatever you are doing, folks. And I'll be back on tomorrow morning, 9:30. So I hope you can join us for that. So enjoy your Sunday. Bye for now.